This is New York Nightly News with Chuck Scarborough, live on New York Nonstop.
Pulmonary fibrosis kills 40,000 Americans every year. But not many people even know what it is, even though that disease claimed the life of the man without fear, daredevil Evel Knievel. Here to tell us more is Evel Knievel's granddaughter, Kristen Knievel, and Dr. Dan Rose. He's the president of the Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation. So, Kristen, let me start with you because, gosh, I remember your grandfather so well. He was such a fixture and such a stuntman. But this guy set a record for breaking more bones than anybody in human history and surviving. It must have been very peculiar for you to have this man, who we all thought would eventually kill himself doing some reckless thing, die from this sort of unheard of disease.
Right. It was a shock to me and the rest of my family, definitely.
When was he diagnosed?
I want to say 4 or 5 years before he passed away.
Yeah. And do you have any idea what caused it?
You know, he was on various medications for other ailments, but, you know, it could be genetic. And another theory that I sort of kind of had was, you know, hitting the pavement at 65, 70 miles an hour so many times has to cause some type of microscopic damage to your organs, especially your lungs.
One would think even beyond microscopic. That's
yeah, to say the least. So, you know, we're not really sure.
Well, let's bring Dr. Rose into this because, Doctor, you can tell us, first of all, what is cystic fibrosis?
Pulmonary fibrosis. A lot of people think it's.
You know what? Yeah, I can
Well,
say
no,
that.
a lot of people think.
Yeah.
A lot of people have heard of cystic fibrosis, but they haven't heard of pulmonary fibrosis. But it's about 5 times as many people in the United States have pulmonary fibrosis, and it's an abnormal response to injury where the fibroblasts damage the tissue
In the lungs.
in the lungs, and the normal tissue is replaced by scar tissue, and you end up suffocating to death. I was talking to Kristen before, and it may be she had familial. 20 to 30% of people that have pulmonary fibrosis have familial.
Which means it's genetic?
It could be genetic, yes. My father died of it, I had an aunt die of it, and I have an uncle that's severely ill. So I feel like I'm, unfortunately, you know, pretty prone to it.
But beyond genetics, there are other causes.
There can be, it's in about 10% of people, there's a known cause, and 90% it's so-called idiopathic, which means we don't know what caused it. Certain medications can cause it, dust, you know, allergens in the air, but we really don't know, and we don't have a good cure yet.
What is the cure?
There's no cure. There's no medication. The only treatment now is lung transplant. And actually, results of lung transplant, although it's not well recognized, have improved dramatically in the last 2 to 3 years. And pulmonary fibrosis is the leading indication for lung transplantation.
Typically, when somebody is diagnosed with it, how long do they live?
Roughly 2 to 4 years is all. There are people that live much longer. The course can have the disease can have a variable course. Some people it's very rapid, other people it's more indolent.
It's quite deadly.
Yes, sir.
And it works rather rapidly, too.
Correct.
Kristen, the doctor was talking a moment ago that you were discussing with him the fact that this may be familial. It may be something that you may be genetically disposed to. How do you feel about that?
You know, honestly, I feel like we're all genetically predisposed to a ton of things, and we're exposed to all kinds of environmental hazards. So I worry about it, but I'm not gonna let it control my life or how I think about things. So I'm just gonna, you know, the one thing that I learned from my grandfather was to just live your life to the fullest, and so I'm not really gonna let it get to me.
Well, if anybody lived his life to the fullest, your grandfather certainly did. Do you remember his greatest stunts?
I do. You know, he stopped jumping before I was born, but just seeing those crashes is, you know, I mean, I see my dad do it now, so.
Your dad's doing it. He's following your
Yeah.
grandfather's footsteps. What drives them?
I really couldn't tell you. Maybe a chemical imbalance in the brain.
So,
Yeah, I don't know.
you're not inclined to like jump out of the window here, are you?
Not at all. Like, it skipped a generation. The daredevil definitely skipped a generation.
Good. So you got to watch out for your kids. You know,
Yeah.
they're getting on those tricycles and go nuts.
Yep, they're not going to be allowed to have any bikes or anything.
Okay. Well, listen, you're both doing really good work, and this is the Pulmonary Fibrosis is a wonderful foundation, and hopefully that we'll eventually get a cure if you keep raising money and keep focusing on it.
We're getting closer. There's a lot of good research going on, Chuck.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.